Welcome back to Dirty20, everyone. Today we take a look at the one-shot that I wrote and that we ran in this past spring, the Rapture. Let's get on with the show. Thanks for joining us once again, lovely people. Now, if you haven't watched our spring one-shot, The Rapture, yet, you could stop this video now, go over to that video and watch it if you've got like 3 hours to spare, and that way you will be surprised by the story, because here I'm going to be going into some of the spoilers and inspiration that I got for writing this one-shot. Or if you're a DM who is thinking about writing their own adventures for the first time, it might be interesting to watch this first to see kind of where my head was at when I wrote it, and then see how it translated to actual play, because, you know, once the players get involved, that's when the story is kind of out of your hands and you need to adapt to that. I will leave that decision to you. The Rapture first came about when producer Jason first asked me to come up with a spring-themed one-shot. That's when I kind of started thinking about nature and folk tales, and particularly like the Brothers Grimm stories, you know. I think about the Pied Piper of Hamelin, Hansel and Gretel, and at the same time I love the kind of darkness and horror of those original stories. So I started researching and asked in some of the Facebook groups, which is a great resource for any DM, you know, for some festivals in the Forgotten Realms that might be spring related, and that's when I came across The Greening, a celebration of new life by the followers of Shantia, if I'm pronouncing that right. Now, in my homebrew setting of Brywick, I have a small town outside of the main city, which is kind of halfling-centric, and a lot of halflings follow Shantia. She's like a fertility goddess and agriculture, that kind of thing. And so I have this kind of location, high hill, mostly halflings, so I think to myself, okay, right, so I've got a place. But then I needed a reason for the adventurers to be there and to take on whatever the task was. So again, inspired a little bit by the Pied Piper, I thought of a device where children have been disappearing. One of them was found murdered, and I had a place and a reason. Now, the tone, which was kind of my next thought process, came very naturally from that. So I talked about the Brothers Grimm. I don't know if you've seen the Terry Gilliam movie, Grimm, I think it's called, or Grimm, the Brothers Grimm, I think. And also, if you've seen American Horror Story Season 4, Freak Show, I was kind of very enamored with that aesthetic of like the insane circus, and the horror kind of came from those folk tales. Also, obviously, massive shout out to Stephen King's It. It's one of my most traumatic memories from childhood, is when you know, in the miniseries, the brother, I think is called, oh no, it's one of the main kids is called Eddie, and you hear Eddie, and yeah, that ruined me as a child. Thanks, Stephen. So at this point I had a location, I had a theme, and I had a hook, a way to get the players into the adventure. Now, quick side note, for the hook, I don't think that for a one-shot it's that necessarily important, because your players are already primed to answer the call to adventure. They're not going to say, well, no, I'd rather go and do something else, right? In a campaign, it's a little bit different. You have to kind of set many hooks that people can choose to go in. But there's other ways that in a one-shot you can give agency to your players, and we're about to talk about them. But building the encounters very much followed the advice that we've given on the channel in previous videos. I recommend you check those out. Links will be in the description below. But I started with a social encounter to set up the premise of what had happened. So a call had gone out to all adventurers in the region. And so the players' characters were there along with a bunch of other adventurers, and the provost, the kind of mayor of the town, explains what's going on. Now, it is a kind of starting in a tavern, but with a slight twist, I think. The great thing about a tavern is that you have lots of NPCs, lots of opportunities for role-playing, and starting with a social encounter, I think, does a couple of things. It allows the players an opportunity to ask questions, get information, pick up rumors, which I as a player like to do whenever I'm in that kind of situation. And I think in a one-shot, it also gives your players immediately a role-playing opportunity to talk about, or to talk in character, to show off their character, because, you know, that's when, as a DM, as an adventure writer, you kind of have to let go of it. And now it's the characters. These are the people that we're focusing the story on, right? And once again, a massive thank you to Scott, Jez, and Eric for putting all that time and effort into their characters. They really came up with some amazing stuff. And there was some really sweet moments, actually, in the one-shot. It was so much fun. Now, after the first encounter, I wanted to give the players options, the choice, decisions to make. And I think this is where in a one-shot you can kind of do that in an adventure, right? This is a very cool thing, though, because I, as a player, like it when decisions are in my hands. But it is tricky for a DM because you have to be very flexible, and as a writer of the adventure, you have to try to make sure that you're not locking certain critical information that the players are going to need within a certain part that they might skip. So if, you know, you've got encounter A, B, and C, and you say, okay, well, which one do you want to go to? And they jump straight to B, but in A, there was a piece of information or something that is central for them to make good decisions. It's a tricky balance, is what I'm saying. The key, I think, is flexibility. So in the Rapture, I went with 3 possible locations that they could move on to next. Now, in the adventure itself, you can see that I wrote it in this order. I went with the forest first as a place that they might search for, because that's where the kidnappings happened. And within that exploration encounter, I would say that I put in a kind of Rapunzel-inspired mislead, and an NPC that had some information, but which wasn't critical, I don't think, in Nana, who was very heavily inspired by the witches from Terry Pratchett's Discworld, which I absolutely love. And she was a lot of fun to play. Next, I wrote On the Trail of the Bard. Now, this is where I think I'm kind of double bluffing the players a little bit, in the sense that they might see this and say, okay, well, children have been kidnapped. There's rumors about a musician or music being played in the forest. So this sounds like the Pied Piper. And in a sense, I'm kind of putting it as a red herring, as maybe the obvious answer, but which actually will lead to the actual answer. And then I wrote in the circus, where basically initially I thought that this would be the place for the final encounter, But of course I should have known better because it's just a cool place. And so the players went straight there. But I kind of put in a little bit of a stall tactic, which I think I saw in a video game or something at one point, where I basically had the circus closed, right? And some of the people aren't there. Now, I also laid some breadcrumbs, some kind of clues with the owner of the circus, Maximus, who's like a long-lived elf who's in a very bad kind of place. I also left some breadcrumbs, which I don't think the players ever really kind of went towards. In Bozo, one of the clowns, one of the halfling clowns, just not being around. But yeah, I also laid a cool little combat encounter with a displacer beast, something really easy that I knew the players could handle, but thematically it worked, you know, like a cat in a circus, a big cat in a circus. But it being a displacer beast makes it super D&D. Now, I won't do a play-by-play of the everything that the players decided to do and stuff. For that, I completely suggest to go and check out the one-shot. Like I say, it was a lot of fun, and we're going to be doing more of these. So please check it out. But that choice of them deciding to go to the circus first had a massive impact on the adventure, when things were revealed, where they were revealed, and this is why I'm saying that flexibility is such an important element, because you know, reading the one shot, which Eric very kindly made look beautiful, you might not imagine that it would go that way, but I think that that's always an interesting thing to see, that, you know, when something is written down, it's not going to end up that way. And a lot of that comes from the DM. Most of it comes from the players. But that's what I think makes D&D such a special game. So there we have it, lovely people. We are working in the background, as I say, to do some more of these. So if you've enjoyed the one-shot, if you've enjoyed this video where I've talked a little bit about the inspiration behind it and kind of how I came up with it, please subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified whenever we upload new videos. Also, hit that like button, leave us a comment, and as always, keep slaying. If you've enjoyed this content, then please smash that like button, subscribe, share this around online, and come and visit our website, www.lavictoriaproductions.com, to see all our past episodes, as well as our blog posts and all the stuff that we're currently working on at La Victoria Productions. Why not reach out to us and tell us what you think of our videos? You can reach us on Twitter. @MouthLaVictoria is our producer. We are also on Instagram. I am Enano LVP, and our producer is Jazzy J Cherot. We're also La Victoria Productions on Facebook and LinkedIn. Come on by and let us know what you think.